It's TK Friday, and on today's episode of The Joy of Editing, it's another full edit. I'm calling this one Monkey Business, so sit back, relax, and stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Well, I have this really cool image of a monkey, and I've had this image for a while. This image comes from Ellen, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, Kefauver. It's probably wrong, Ellen, and I apologize for that. I really like this image, but I was having some problems with some of the light areas back here. I tried to get rid of them, some of this area back in here, and then the leaves up front. I wasn't real happy with those, and so I kind of set this on the back burner, knowing that someday I would get back to it, and today is that day. Now, as always, I start out this edit in Lightroom, and I put a linear profile on this. This was a Canon EOS 7D Mark II, so I used the linear profile for that camera, because I like to get a relatively flat starting point going into Photoshop. And I just clicked on auto, and I just think I pulled back on the whites. They were a little bit hot clipping up here, so I pulled those back. And of course, for lens corrections, I always remove chromatic aberrations, so I have that checked on. Enable profile corrections checked on. And as far as detail, I shut off the sharpening and the luminance noise reduction. I just allowed the color noise reduction, because once I got it into Photoshop, I ran Topaz Photo AI on it to remove noise and just give it a slight sharpening. But first I sent it into Photoshop Beta because, now we have the new generative fill tool in there. So I ran generative fill on it, and I was able to get rid of those light spots up in here, some of the areas back in here. And I was able to get rid of the leaves that were in here. And this is something very exciting, and I love the new generative fill. I can't wait till it comes into Photoshop 2023. Now, don't forget, you can download this image along with the PDF notes and give this a try for yourself. So the next thing we're going to do is I'll meet you in Photoshop 2023, and we'll start the edit with the TK8 plugin for Photoshop. By the way, if you don't yet own the TK8 plugin for Photoshop, you can click on my affiliate link found in the description below this video. Just click on that link. It'll take you to the TK web store where you can purchase the TK8 plugin for Photoshop along with training videos. And if you use my promo code DK15, you'll save 15% off your entire purchase. And when you do that, you're supporting the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. And for that, I truly thank you. And now here we are in Photoshop with the TK8 plugin for Photoshop. The first thing I always do is start out with my balance and contrast adjustment. To me, it's a great starting point. So I'm just going to click on the luminosity mask button, click on Midtones 3, and that just protects my highlights and my shadows from clipping. I'm going to output that to a color grading tool. And now I think I'll start with the shadows. So we'll click on this black block for shadows. And I just want to darken up the shadows a little bit to somewhere maybe right about here. And now I'm going to click on the midtone block, and I'm just going to drag it slightly to the right to maybe right about there. But the other thing I want to do is give it a little bit of color grading. And I'm just going to drag this block up right into about there, just to warm it up just a little wee bit, something like that. And now let's go to highlights, and I'm just going to drag this slightly to the right, not much, just to about right there. Now here is the before, and here's the after, and already it's looking really good. This is going to be a little quicker edit today, I believe anyway. Now, when I study this image, I look back here, see some of these lighter areas back in here in the distance. I want to darken those up a little bit, so I think I'm going to burn those. So to do that, let me X out of the color grading tool. Nothing changes here. I'm going to click on the luminosity mask button, and I'm just going to use a lights 1 here. Okay, and as you can see, all these light areas, I just want to burn these down a little bit. I'm going to stay off the monkey here. So I'm going to use a burn tool, so I'll output this to a burn layer. Now you can use the left or the right side of the burn tool. It really doesn't matter, and it's up to you, whichever you prefer. In my case, I like to use the 50% gray side. It's on the left. The right side will give you a blank pixel layer. So I'm going to click the left side right here. And you'll notice we have a soft light blend mode. You can see that we have a selection by this selection indicator. And we have a black brush. I'm going to take my opacity to 50%. I'll type my 5 key, and that'll give me 50%. That's the shortcut. And with a decent sized brush here, I'm just going to start to burn. I'm not lifting the brush. I'm just kind of generally painting over the entire area. I'll probably paint it again, maybe several times, but I've yet to lift the brush. Okay. And like certain areas like here, I'll lift and paint a couple times, and here lift and paint, lift, paint, okay, up here a couple times. And I'm just, locally painting this on here and getting this background to look the way I like it. And that's looking pretty good. Maybe up in here again, over in here a little bit. But hey, it's your vision and you do what you want. You paint as much as you want or as little as you want. It's totally up to you. Up in here, I might get this a couple times. Okay, and I'll paint right in here. And I'll make my brush smaller and paint off this light area in here. I'm lifting and painting, lifting and painting. Okay, just like so. So I can really, you see that? I can really burn that down. But take your time, In a tutorial, I have to go kind of fast here, but forgive me if it's not 100% perfect because, if I was doing this on my own at home, I would be taking my time. But I think that looks good. So let's take a look. Here is the before, and here is the after. But see how that just tones that down, drawing more attention to our monkey here. Isn't that monkey cool? I love this monkey. And now when I study the image, see the tree over here, it's a little bit light, so I'd like to darken it up a bit. So I'm going to burn it down a little bit, but I tried to burn to when I didn't like my result. So I ended up doing the burning a different way, and I like to do it this way as well. And that is to get a curves adjustment layer. Now, right now, I have a selection here, and I don't want to put that selection into a mask. So if I click the curves adjustment, that is exactly what would happen, and I don't want that. So we need to deselect the selection, and this button right here on the TK8 combo panel will deselect our selection, so click on that. And now I'm just going to get a curves adjustment layer. I'm not going to use the curves. I'm just stilling it for a blend mode. I'm going to put a black mask on to hide the adjustment, and I'm going to change the blend mode to multiply, which will darken the entire image. But I like to put the black mask on first so I don't see the image getting dark. I know it's going to go dark. And now I'm going to use a luminosity mask to help me isolate this tree. So to do that, I'm going to click on the luminosity mask button, and a lights 1 will get it. Now on the notes I didn't do this, but what you can do is you can click on this levels adjustment and maybe pull in on the shadows slider to the right a little bit. See how I can tighten that up and make that darker around it so I won't overpaint. And then I can take the midtone slider and drag it to the left, lighten that up again, and maybe pull the shadow slider in a little bit more and take the highlight slider and lighten it up a little bit. So that'll help you when you go to burn this down. And now all I need to do is output this. So I'll output this to a black mask, painting with a white brush through a selection. So that's this button right here. So click on that. And you can see I have a selection by the selection indicator. I want to paint this on with an opacity of 20%, so I'll just type my 2 key. That's a shortcut. And now, with a nice soft edge brush here, make it a decent size, and I'll just start to burn this down, just to darken it up a little bit. Now, again, I have some pretty good separation there, so, if I go outside of the tree a little bit, I think I'll be fine. So I'm just going to darken it down a little bit. Now I'm lifting the brush and painting again over some areas. And again, you're locally painting this on, so you can make some areas darker than other areas. And again, take your time. I'm kind of going faster. I'm going to make my brush smaller and just paint along this limb right here just to darken it up. And I'm going to go out into here. We'll darken this up. Okay. And even on these limbs down in here. So get whatever you want to darken. Just like that, and come down on here. And if I want to, I can even come out on this limb. Okay, just like that. And make my brush a little bit larger and just paint in here a little bit, just to darken this up a little bit more. That's a little bit of light coming through there. Paint in here, and I think, by George, I've got it. So let's take a look. Here is the before, and here is the after. But you see how that just really helps to tone that down. And now our eye is really going towards our monkey. The next thing I want to do is turn the attention onto the monkey, the star of this image, and I want to paint some contrast on the monkey, and I'm going to use a paint contrast action. I'm going to go ahead and deselect my selection, and then I'm going to click on paint contrast, and you'll notice you get 50% gray. I'm going to start out with 50% gray because 50% gray is really cool. I'm going to click OK. What that does is it'll darken darker areas and lighten lighter areas, so it gives you an overall nice contrast boost. And right now my opacity is at 20%. That's where I want to be at. And I'll make my brush a little larger. Now I'm just painting on the monkey, okay? And again, you can lift and paint again. So I'm just painting general contrast over the entire monkey. So lighter areas will get lighter and darker areas will get darker. And then I'm going to come back and I'll just work on the darker areas with black paint. Now I like the way Tony has this panel set up because you have a gray brush, a black brush, a white brush, and a brush for selecting color. So I'm starting with the gray, but then I'm going to go to the black brush. And I won't use the white brush, I don't believe, because I don't want to overlighten the light areas in here. But again, I'm just doing some general contrast right now on the monkey. And again, light areas will get lighter, dark areas will get a little bit darker. And let me go ahead and show you what it looks like so far. Here's the before and here's the after, but you see that nice contrast in there? And now I'm going to switch it over to the black brush. And then, it's really going to target the darker tones now. And so I'm just going to bring out some of the darker tones, painting where I think I should, like on this here, maybe on the face here. And how about down in here a little bit, over in here, and maybe on the tail down here. If you heard a little noise there, that was Siri in the background talking. I hate when Siri comes on. Okay, so here we go. I think that's going to be pretty good. Here's the before, and here's the after. I think I was a little too aggressive right in here. So I'm going to grab my eraser tool. I'm just going to type E for the eraser tool at 10%. And I want to just paint back off of this. I went a little too aggressive on this nose area up in here on the face. So I want to pull some of that off of there. Geez, I was going too aggressive. Now check it out. Here's the before and here is the after. And I think I'm good. I ended up taking a little bit more of that contrast off the monkey's face. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to add some clarity to the monkey and to the tree. And to do that, I'll use a clarity action. And you're going to find that right here under Actions, Clarity. Just click on that. And then when you do, you're going to get a radius of 10 pixels. I'm going to use that default radius. It's a high-pass filter. I'm going to click OK. And now I want to hide that adjustment. It's going over the entire image, but you mainly see it on the tree and on the monkey here. And so what we'll do is put a black mask on here to hide it, okay? So we can click this button on the combo panel, and then what I'll do is with a white brush, now right now I have an eraser tool, so I'm going to click this button on the TK8 combo panel, not this button actually, this white brush button, and now I have a white brush, and I want to be at 20% opacity, and I am, and if you're not, you can type your 2 key, and then I'm just going to start to paint on some clarity. Now if you lift your brush and paint again, you'll add a little bit more. So again, you're the artist here, and you decide what areas you want to have more clarity and what areas you don't want as much. And off the edge here where the hairs are coming out on the monkey, that looks kind of cool. So maybe on his face a little bit. Down in here, we're just going to paint on some clarity. Okay, just like that. Now I'm going to go onto the tree and paint some clarity onto this tree. It just pops a little bit of detail out on it, just like that. And again, when you lift your brush and paint again, you'll add a little bit more. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller and come out onto this branch a little bit. Down into here, maybe over in here. And maybe on this branch. Now let's take a look. Here is the before. And here is the after. So just a little bit of clarity boost on the monkey. Now, if it's too strong, you can take the opacity and pull it back. So you can shut it off and then just build it up slowly. But I'm going to leave it at 100%. Here's the before and here's the after. By the way, you'll also find actions on the combo panel. You just click this button right here and click X to get out of the actions. I always leave my CX panel open because I have a 27-inch monitor, so I have a lot more real estate. So I like to keep it open and keep my actions open at all times. They're just quick and easy to get to that way. But you can get them on the combo panel as well. And the next thing I want to do is a little freehand vignette. Really, I want to darken all the areas around the monkey, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to get my lasso tool. I'm going to type L for my lasso tool, and then I'm just going to lasso kind of around the monkey like this, like an organic shape, just like this. And I'm going to click on Freehand Vignette, and I'll accept the Gaussian radius right the way it is, and I'll go ahead and click on OK. And that's way too strong, so I'm going to take the opacity off and build it up slowly. And I thought, like, right at like 20%. See how it just darkens just a little bit around the entire monkey? Just bringing emphasis to that monkey, again, who is the star of this image. And now, how about just a basic vignette? So let's click on the Vignette button right here under Actions. And we'll accept the Gaussian blur radius just the way it is. Click OK. And again, I'm going to take the opacity off and build it up slowly. I just want just a little bit there. I'm just going to take it up to 20% as well. Here's the before and here's after. So just a little bit of vignette around the edge. Now, the next thing I want to do is look at these cute eyes on this monkey. Let's lighten them up and bring a little bit of life to them. So to do that, I'm going to grab a curves adjustment layer, black mask, so we don't see what changes here, because I'm going to use a screen blend mode, which will lighten everything up. And screen's great for lightening up eyes, the screen blend mode. And now what I'll do is use a color mask. So we'll click this button right here, and let's click some of the brown in the eyes right here and click OK. And you can see they're right there. So we can take this brightness slider and drag it to the right to really lighten this up like so. And now let's get a levels adjustment and refine this a little bit. I'm going to take the highlight slider and drag it over to really lighten up those eyes, to maybe somewhere right around in there, and take the midtone slider and slide it over a little bit more, and take the shadow slider and drag it to the right just to isolate a little bit, maybe right like that. Maybe pull the midtones over a little bit more. I think that's good. Maybe the highlight right there is good. Now I'll put this to a black mask, painting with a white brush through a selection, so we'll click this button right here. I'm going to paint at 100% opacity. I'm typing my 0 key. That's the shortcut for 100%. And now with a white brush, we're just going to simply paint over the monkey's eyes and just lighten them up. So I'll get this one first and move over to this eye, and I think we're going to be pretty good. Okay, so here is the before, and here is the after. We're almost done. I want to get rid of some of the saturation on this tree. I think it's a little oversaturated, so I just want to pull it down. Right now I have a selection. I'm going to deselect my selection by clicking this button on the combo panel to deselect the selection. I'm going to grab a hue saturation adjustment layer, so click this button right here, and click on the target tool, and just click on this tree and just drag it to the left just to reduce the saturation on that red to maybe somewhere right around there. And I think I want to darken it a bit. So I'll take the lightness slider and just start to drag it to the left and darken that up a little bit, because I think that will help. Now here's the before and here's the after, but it's affecting our monkey too. So let's change this to a black mask. So let's click on this button right here on the combo panel. That puts a black mask on there. And now with a brush at 100% opacity, a white brush. So let's click on our white brush. And right now I'm at 100% opacity. If you weren't, you could type your 0 key. And now let's just go ahead and at 100% opacity, we can just paint off some of that saturation on there. And I think that's really going to help. I'll make my brush a little smaller, and I'll just paint off on this branch right here and here. Maybe over in here a little bit as well. I think that's good. And maybe up. I think that's good over there. So check it out. Here is the before and here's after, but it just tones it down a little bit. The next thing I want to do is see right in this area here, it's a little light. What I want to do is lighten up the midtones on this image, but if I lighten them up, I think this area is going to get too light. So I want to darken these really light areas down just a little bit. I'll burn them down, and here's how I'll do it. We'll click on the luminosity mask button, And let's find a mask that'll target these light areas. So that's a lights 1. Here's a lights 2. That's pretty good. Here's a lights 3. Lights 3 really isolates this. I'll put this to a burn tool, so I'll click on the left side right here. And with a brush opacity of like 30%, I'll type my 3 key. And what I want to do is just burn down some of these light areas in here, just like that. See that? And even down on here a little bit. Anything that's a little bit too light, because like I said, my next step is to lighten up the midtones. I like this light in here, and I think that'll work out. So something like that. Now here's the before and here's after. See how that just tones that down a little bit? And now to lighten up the midtones, so what I'll do is click on the luminosity mask button. Now I don't have to worry about the selection. It'll go away when I click on this button. And I always like to use a Midtones 1 for a subtle midtone lightening. So I'll click on Midtones 1. I'll put it to a curves adjustment layer. And now check it out. I'll click on the screen blend mode button and you'll see it'll just lighten up the midtones. You see that? Here's the before and here is the after. So a nice lightening of the midtones. Now one final thing. I'm noticing a little bit of a blue cast up in here and a little bit of a magenta on here. And to take care of that, it's going to be real simple. I'm just going to click on my hue saturation adjustment layer. And what I'll do is I'm going to click on the target tool and I'm going to click up in here and see the blues. It's selected blues. I'm going to take the saturation of blue and just pull that back a good bit. Now I see some magenta in here. So what I'll do is again, click on this target tool and go ahead and click right around in here and see. That's reds. Let me click here. Yes, that's magenta. And I can just take this saturation and pull it back just to take out that magenta, what's called a color cast. So very subtle, but here's the before and here's the after. It was looking a little purple up here on his nose. And with that, I believe we're done. Now let's take a look. I'll use my before after action. Here's the before and now the after. So I think it came out really nice and I hope you give this a try. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial today, the full edit of this monkey. Hey, if you did, please click the like button and share this with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe and click that bell notification icon. And that way, every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. And I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing!